Hi. Hey, what's going on? Good evening, everybody. It's another edition of the John D. Villarreal Show here, and there's so much to talk about, a lot to talk about here. As usual, I will be taking your comments live on YouTube here on the show. I also will be somewhat monitoring my LinkedIn and Facebook, so you can join me there. There's a lot to talk about tonight. And I do apologize. I've had a sick 5-year-old. Poor Janaire has caught something, and she's been home for last few days. So we've been trying to hopefully help mend her and tend to her, of course, as parents here. So there's a lot to talk about tonight, and who knows? She may even make it a quick appearance, but I don't think so. I think Mom's going to try to put her to sleep pretty quickly, which I definitely applaud as well. A lot to talk about tonight, and it's like, what do I really want to speak about? Because there's so many different things that are happening right now, and in no particular order, and we'll go through it. There's this Kevin O'Leary quote, and the thing is about that is, I love Kevin O'Leary, but I don't know which Kevin O'Leary to listen to, because I think there's maybe some different quotes there that we'll talk about. There's what's going on in automotive. There's what's going on in real estate. There's news with Tesla. There's news in the political scene with Nikki Haley getting in here. New polls with Trump and DeSantis. There's a lot of different things that are percolating tonight that we're going to have to address and we're going to have to talk about. I also want to say that if you like beaches and vacation stuff, we have some new videos up on YouTube with our visit to Aruba recently. Just beautiful. It's awesome. Check that out. I think we've got a Palm Beach video up and an Eagle Beach video up, and there will be more on the way. Now, let's just see here. Let me just get this. Let me just get my Facebook open while I do this. And I'm going to try some new things tonight. I will also have a programming note here that we're going to, tomorrow, I'll probably be talking about some interesting things tomorrow. Okay, so stay tuned for that on the show. May have some interesting announcements and to talk about, and also on LinkedIn. So let's start with this Kevin O'Leary thing. And I'm going to show this very briefly. So Kevin O'Leary kind of, in my opinion, got into a little bit of a hot water with this quote here. And I'm going to try something here. Hopefully I'm going to get it right. We're going to see if this works. First time I'm trying this. It shouldn't be too hard, right? So let's give this a shot here and see if we can make this work. And I'm going to go with the quote. This is off of Twitter, his Twitter. I'm going to show it very briefly, so be ready for this. Let's see if we can make this work here. All right, and let's give it a shot right here. So here we go. Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful. Right here in the middle here, we see this. February 11th, quote, "You may lose your wife, you may lose your dog, your mother may hate you," and you can see the rest of that quote. But the main thing here, ... what matters is that you achieve success and become free. Okay, now, look, that quote, in my opinion, generated a significant amount of heat. A significant amount of heat. And he went on later to clarify some of this. And I get it. I understand that he was trying to clarify some stuff. I understand that. I'm going to be trying to load up the next thing here, so I'm sort of multitasking here, if you will. But, people took that. Well, I can't speak for other people, but that there's been reaction out there. He's been on news shows. Before I even dive into that, to address this, in my opinion, I think he was on CNN. I think he was on also Fox Business, I believe. But before I dive into that too much, it's kind of like, which Kevin O'Leary should I believe or agree with in a way, right? Because, okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay. And this is, okay. It's good. All right. We'll just go off the headline there. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to try to load this one up here, because this is what I'm talking about. There's different Kevin O'Learys here. I mean, Kevin O'Leary before made a different statement, and that different statement, let's see if I can find this. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. It kind of went the other direction, in my opinion. And this is from Business Insider. We're going to show this very, very briefly here. Get ready. It's going to come up very quickly. Headline, quote, workaholics are unproductive. He believes great employees should have balance in their lives. That's the headline there. Stephen Jones, Business Insider, May 11th, 2022. So Kevin, and in fact, he went on later in that same interview, I believe, quote, people who work 25 hours a day, quote unquote, are unproductive. Now, I think where the distinction is here is that Kevin may be talking about the difference between an employee and the difference between an entrepreneur. And later on, if I go to Kevin O'Leary's, I think his Twitter, again, I have so many different things opened up here, so I apologize, and I'm trying to do this justice here, Kevin. And again, I'm a fan of Kevin's, definitely he's done a lot of stuff. I think, let me see if I get this right here. He's posting a lot of stuff here. I think he was saying basically about, listen, this is just about being an entrepreneur. That's what the entrepreneur game is. And I somewhat understand that. I understand. Okay, yeah. Well, okay, and here's his other statement here on February 14th, Valentine's Day, quote, Kevin O'Leary on Twitter, I don't understand all the blowback because of my comments on, quote, hard work, commitment, and sacrifice. If you're not willing to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, all that type of stuff. And I think he also made a comment somewhere, I believe, about the competition. And if you're not willing to do it, then other people might. And then, I think he said something about, global workforces and stuff like that. But here's the thing, right? I mean, there's been pushback on the I believe the 996 work culture, right? And how that is just very, very challenging and difficult for workers. I mean, and stuff. And in fact, even in automotive and stuff, there's pushback. I mean, there's discussion. I saw an automotive leader talking about trying to implement the Microsoft 4-day work week and how people are more productive. Microsoft, no less than Microsoft, has done studies on this. There's a lot of people are sort of reevaluating everything. Do you want to just give up your life and give up your family and not see your family for whatever period of time? And it's always, whatever the position is, automotive or tech or, name, insert name here. It's you're usually constantly on that treadmill. So at what price, right? At what price for your family life, or what price for your health? I understand what Kevin O'Leary is saying, though, is I think he's pushing back against the quiet quitting. I think he's pushing back against, maybe what he thinks, and I'm not speaking for him clearly, he can speak for himself, no doubt, about maybe the work ethic these days or something, right? Or just maybe part of it is the fad, if you will, of entrepreneurship, that it's not all glamorous, it's not all Instagram photos and stuff. And I'm definitely, to that extent, I'm absolutely down with what he's saying. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, and I know what the grind is like. I understand. Even my wife tells me, hey, you got to stop talking about work. I get it. I talk to my daughter about work, but I love that because I want her to be an entrepreneur. I want her to be super educated. I want to give her that edge and stuff. And, my father was always a great hard worker. Now, my grandfather was an entrepreneur and a great mathematician and stuff, a great engineer, if I remember correctly. But, didn't have, I don't think either one of them, I didn't think anyone in my family went to get a great MBA, at one of the top schools or anything like that. So I didn't have that kind of foundation, if you will, in the family. So I want to give that to my daughter. And of course you want your kids to do better than you and everything, right? So to the extent that Kevin O'Leary is talking about, hey, being an entrepreneur is really hard work and you need to be all in on that. And I understand that. That's a different choice. That's a sense of ownership. That's building something, for yourself and obviously your team and investors if you have those and whatever, as opposed to, working for someone else. But then again, you countervail this. But again, this is a global conversation of just what's the appropriate work schedule? There's this ongoing conversation, absolutely ongoing conversation about work from home, work in the office, return to the office, the RTO, hybrid work. I mean, so many different things going on there. But again, you still have to countervail that with this Business Insider thing. And I'll put the links to these articles and different sourcing here on YouTube, as I typically do, where Kevin O'Leary himself says that, quote, workaholics are unproductive. So which is it, right? And kind of Gary Vee kind of said something like, hey, if you live for the likes, you got to take the booze, right? And I don't know if that was referencing Kevin O'Leary, referencing this situation. I don't know if that's kind of like, if that was a call out. Sometimes things are said to be quotable. Now, I'm not alleging anything. First of all, everything I'm saying is all my personal opinion and alleging facts, not casting any aspersions. And clearly, Kevin O'Leary is a famous celebrity public figure. But it's something to contemplate, right? In terms of like, well, let me revise and extend that. I understand the distinction between being an entrepreneur and the level of commitment that he's expressing on that, and how it's unglamorous most of the time to make it work versus being an employee. But I mean, either way, there's still real issues of balance and burnout and perspective and team and all these things. And nonetheless, I can make the case of the distinction and the difference, but I think that, people could understand where there could be some confusion, particularly when you have two different quotes out there, and how people can take this a different way. And I think that this kind of brings up another thing. I'm going to kind of swerve into something that my brother and I were talking about. And, there's so many different themes, whether it's high inflation, supply chain shortages, whether it was, the whole, what we've all been through with the whole pandemic, whether it's outsourcing, AI. There's so many different things going on now. There's et cetera, right? And the quiet quitting, quiet hiring. I mean, it seems like every time I click on LinkedIn, there's a new word, a new phrase, a new buzz thing. And there's discussion about, hey, wages are going too high. We have to put the brakes on wages. Kind of, Main Street versus Wall Street to some degree. And I can't remember if I said it, my brother, I think I said it. I think we both, I don't know. Somehow, who knows? But I mean, it certainly came up in the conversation. I mean, I guess I'll kind of take credit for it, but it certainly was a joint conversation there. So maybe it's mutual, who knows? But anyway, I had the reaction of, we were both sort of getting at the same thing and trying to say the same thing, which is, hey, I'm all for capitalism and free markets. Well, 100%. I'm down with that. I've always been a libertarian. Conservative / almost libertarian, and all for free markets and Adam Smith and etc. But feudalism's not capitalism, okay? Feudalism's not capitalism. If we're all working for like one or two big companies, and that's why there are certain imperfections, and this is my law and economics training coming out, and I don't want to sit here and just start, vomiting academia, if you will. But even the biggest free market capitalists, if you study law and economics, I'm talking, Kudor, Nuland, Posner, et cetera, there are times where you have to step in and have intervention to allow the market to work appropriately. Externalities like, pollution, stuff like that, and we may get it to the whole situation there in Ohio. That is very tragic, and our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone there. And in my opinion, we need rapid reaction from officials to really try to take care of those people there. That is really, and in fact, I grew up very close to that area, outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. There, close to the border of Ohio, close to the border of West Virginia, and it's just like it's pretty crazy. So we may get into that. So externalities, asymmetric information. I'm selling you this car. I know more about the car than you do, right? And I know that it's, has problems and stuff, or whatever. Could be a house, could be different things like that. and monopolies. So to the extent that we're all working for big company, multinational, big company one or two or three, or there's not competition here, there isn't a well-functioning market. There's so much regulation, there's so much red tape that you can't really, the barriers to entry are so sky high, or there's only one place that you can do online video on, whatever it is, right? We're all buying cars. There's only one manufacturer of automotive. You're talking about automotive, whatever it is. Then, and all these other things where you have to put up the latest left-wing talking point on your avatar, and if you don't do that, you might lose your job, or you might get canceled, or whatever. And I don't want to get too political. We're going to talk politics here later, but again, I think like things have been so political and hyper-partisan, and I'm just over it for a large degree. Like, we have to get back. 2023 is about getting back to reality, getting connected with people again. And I think that there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. The finances don't make sense. A lot of this craziness doesn't make sense. The hyper-partisanship. This is not how people act on a normal day-to-day basis. It really isn't, right? I mean, I talk to my neighbors. I go down there. If colleagues, whatever it is, like, my family, people all over the political spectrum, love them all. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is how people. It's like we're revved up into this insanity so many times, in my opinion, and it's just silly. For what, right? I mean, what and. That's it. That's a whole different conversation. That's a whole different thing right there. I was thinking about that. That's a whole show about. Just, I don't know how to say this the right way without, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. So just caveat that this is probably not going to be perfect here, right? But, I think people are so, I think people want to fit in so much, and they're very impressionable. Like, you think of fashion trends. Like, all of a sudden, hey, everyone's wearing the hats or something like that. Oh, everyone's gonna, people are gonna wear this clothes or that clothes, or this is the hot car, that's the hot car. You just look at this. If you just look like over even 10 years or 5 years, shoe trends, clothing trends, hair trends, I mean, all kinds of stuff. You just see such a difference in there. And some of this is kind of scary. Like, you see some of these things, these challenges online and stuff, and some of the kids are it's getting, you have to be careful. You have to be careful out there. And I think people are very impressionable. I'm kind of getting a little bit off track here, but that sort of bears mentioning to some degree. Here's how it relates. Media is so powerful. And I said that before about, how do you know what you know, right? How do you do the diligence in your own life? How do you understand? How do you do the research? I should do a whole show on that. I should do a whole series on that, really. That's super important, in my opinion. And if you look at the environment right now, there's a lot going on. If you don't get a hold of yourself, in my opinion, and understand what's going around your situation, I don't care if you're in automotive, I don't care if you're in movies, you could be in law, medicine. There's so many different things that are happening. Change is so right now that in this year, I mean, listen, I'm not giving anybody any advice. Everything you do is at your own risk. I'm not giving any financial advice or anything like that. But I would take heavy stock. I had a conversation tonight with a friend. And we can have very rapid conversations because we agree on most things, I think. I mean, or maybe he makes me feel that way. I don't know. But anyway, we're both very smart. And it's so funny because things I've been thinking about for the last 2 weeks, I'm like, or whatever. I'm like, it's this. Oh, yeah, I've been saying that. I've been saying that. But the point is here's someone very accomplished. And he's seeing exactly what I'm seeing. And we haven't even talked for a minute, right? And this is someone that's a high achiever in business. So it's like, yeah, these things are changing so fast. Are you prepared? Is your team prepared? That is a huge thing. But part of what I'm saying about this is, are you doing what you need to do to be ready? And are you doing what you need to do to be free financially, career-wise, whatever that it is? It doesn't matter if you're working for someone else and everything. That's great. I get that. you can do a great job, you can be a great employee, whatever, but you have to understand what's going on because you can be left without anywhere to stand on very rapidly. What do I mean by that? Let's get into some specifics. It's the way my mind works, it all connects. I know where I'm going. It may not make sense to you. I can't, excuse me, I can't always articulate, but I already know what I'm trying to say, right? We're going to wind it all out here. You know, the debt is so super high right now in almost all sectors, like crazy high. I may or may not share this screen. Let me see if I can find this here. Let me see if I can find this real fast. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. We're going to talk about the housing prices. We're going to talk about housing prices. That's getting crazy. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about all that too. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. This is from the New York Fed, right? This is real numbers right here. This is real stuff. Let me see if I can share this super quick. Give me a second here. We're trying new stuff here, so bear with me. Bear with me. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, got it. So debt is super high right now. Okay, yeah, I found it right here. Here we go. Actually, I should probably close down some of these ones that after I'm done with it. Let me get back here. I don't want that happening anymore. All right, so check this out. This is from the New York Fed. We're going to hit it real quick. It'll get in on and off the screen. Look at this. Oh, I'm kind of like, let me move myself over here. Can I do that? No, wait. How do I switch that over here? I don't want to fool around too much with it. Okay, look, you've got mortgage debt, super high. Home equity, student debt, super high. $1.6 trillion. Auto debt, $1.55 trillion. Credit card debt. Look at the increases in just Q4 2022. I mean, it's massive. This is massive stuff. This is no joke. Okay, this is no joke. You're talking about an explosion of mortgage debt out there. The annual change of almost $1 trillion. Okay, that is huge. Quarterly change was $250 billion in 2022, Q4 2022. But you've also had credit card debt going up very significantly. You've also had auto debt going up pretty significantly as well. Total debt now stands at $16.9 trillion. That is a massive deal right there. That is something to really think about. And this all comes into this situation, or boils down into this situation. What happens when it's too much? This economy, I want to say, is about 2/3, 60-70%, about 2/3 consumer spending driven. When the consumer shuts down, if they do, because debt's too high. What happens when student loans have to start getting repaid? What happens if that doesn't get addressed? I talked about that before. What happens when inventory starts going up in automotive, when repossessions start going up? What happens about if there's shadow inventory out there, repossessions that aren't being done yet? There's remember, with the whole pandemic and stuff, there was a pause on foreclosures. There was a pause on repossessions. When that all stops, there was a pause on the student loan payments. When that stops, boom, does this consumer in the U.S. hit a wall? And then what happens? So again, I've said this before, the Zoom economy, the Wall Street economy, the corporate, the VCs, the hedge funds, it's all great until you have people that can't buy your products, right? There is no 2 economies, 3 economies. Of course, there's different sectors, there's different sections, but it's one economy. If I don't have somewhere to work and make money or something, or a way to do that, or being an entrepreneur, Kevin O'Leary says, then I don't have money to buy things. If I could have the best business in the world, I could have cut all the expenses. I had all my AI, I could have everything out there. If I don't have consumers that can buy my goods, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is not hard to understand. Like, people get lost in the weeds. We're going to talk about the new wave of VCs and how those funds are working out. We're going to talk about that in a second. But there's so much of this to talk about. I'm going to close down some of these files here, so I just know what I'm doing here, and it's easier to share things in the future here. Okay. So these are things I think that are all sort of coming home to roost. That also bears into our discussion on the political standpoint here. And like I said, I'm trying new things here for the for the show to up the production. So it's a little bit of dead air here and there. And I do apologize for that, but I'm just trying to make a better show overall. Hopefully you appreciate that. So you really have to think about this. You really have to think about what we're dealing with and what we're looking at in 2023. How bad can it get? And to that extent, let's also see, I'm seeing a lot of things about, real estate, hey, inventory's down, maybe real estate soft landing, maybe it's gonna go. I've seen some different things here. And I'm not saying it's all going to crash, but there's some concerns here, right? In my opinion, right here, Wall Street Journal, steepest home decline, headline, real estate, steepest home declines in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, we're in the West, and so, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, and this is by Nicole Friedman, Feb 9, 2023. But more importantly, if I look at some of the newest stuff here, if I look at this is Yahoo News, right? You try to get as recent as you can. And this is February 11th, Gabriela Cruz Martinez. And if you look at some of the map that's happening here, just there's a chart that I think is pretty interesting, pretty impactful. Okay, and it's looking at the peak in 2022 around June for home prices versus now. Now, let me see if I can get this up here for us to take a look at, and then we can discuss it. And again, the way I'm doing the picture-in-picture, it might I'm going to try to see if I can move it over here, but sometimes I might be in some of the data here. Yeah, here we go here. Okay, cool. So we're getting close here. Now let's go back over here, and let me see if I can set this up a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to. Well, all right, let's just try it anyway. All right, now let me see. I'm going to hide myself for a second. That's dramatic, right? If you go over that, you look at some of these declines. You're talking about 13% seasonally adjusted. The lowest was 7%. I mean, this is massive. Those are massive drops in value. In like 6 months, 6, 7, 8 months, right? Those are massive drops. What's going to happen next? I mean, how far does it go? And there are some that say that, hey, it's just beginning. It's just happening, right? Here's another thing. Fortune magazine online, right? Quote, something big has happened in the U.S. housing market. This is by Lance Lambert, January 5th, 2023. And I don't want to sit here and just be the gloom and doom and the perma bear or whatever, but I am saying that, like, the idea that somehow, hey, there's this set of buyers out there and they got all the money and everything's going to be fine and don't worry, it's all good. I don't know about that. I really don't know. I don't know, because as I said before, people get lost in the complexities, and some of this is very complicated, and I do my Ask a Super Genius series because, you make the complicated simple and easy to understand. But it can be broken down to very simple terms. I think there's tremendous opportunity going forward, and I'm going to talk about that in 1 second, but I want to lay this out first so that everybody can understand it, in my opinion. If you do not have people working, it's the function of an economy is to make more goods as efficiently as possible, goods and services, right? So the more people you have working, the more productively they work, whether that's, or whatever, it could be robots, AI, it could be all, that you can say that's productivity. You can say those, you can, maybe, are you calling those workers? It doesn't matter, right? So at this point, I mean, we're not going to get super complicated with this stuff, but the point is that you need more people working, and you need more productive outputs, efficiencies. If you get those, you get more stuff. To the extent that for whatever reason, quiet quitting, pandemics, whatever's going on, people aren't working. To the extent that things aren't being productive because maybe you've got other whatever, hey, I've got this left-wing cause and I care about ESG or whatever it is. And I've talked about that before, about how I've seen data out there, I've heard about data out there that, in my opinion, where those investments aren't turning out so super great, right? And this is the tricky thing, right? I think that I've said it before. I think that recruiting is broken. I think that the way that corporations, particularly the big ones, hire people is completely broken. And yet, there has to be some relationship between the job requirements and the skill set without having to train everyone. Like, I can't go be a nuclear physicist tomorrow or probably ever in my life because that's not me. I don't have that skill set. I don't have that training, or rocket engineer or astronomer or fill in the blank. Right? So maybe, I could or I could, I don't know. I mean, I could be the first person in my family to play in the NBA. If someone gave me a contract, guess what? I would be terrible. I mean, brutally terrible. Like, I can't even express to you how bad I would be on the NBA court. Right? I would get run over, dunked over. I couldn't dribble. I mean, I'd probably trip over myself. I would be so bad. I don't know that like Kevin Hart could even make fun of it. It would be just so bad. Okay. Terribly, terribly bad. So to the extent that we've made moves, or any company's making moves, and I want to be very precise and diplomatic on how I say this, and it could be for anything, for a variety of reasons, right? This could be like, hey, I'm gonna hire my buddy or my brother. I mean, whatever. To the extent that you're doing things that don't make sense, that don't make business sense, then that's not so good, right? So, but I do think that we've had important conversations the last 5, 10, 20 years. And it's been ongoing. This is part of my theory of everything gets better and everything gets more efficient, and I'm a perma optimist and all that type of stuff. But you still have to see where the potholes are, and it's never a linear line, right? So I think that we do have to create an environment where everybody has a shot, where everybody has equal opportunity, peace, love, equality, freedom, opportunity, and everything for everyone, right? I think we have to create that environment, and that is crucial. That's so important. That in and of itself is a positive goal. Beyond the economics of it, that's a moral imperative, I believe, and that's also societal civilization imperative, right? So those are very important things. But at the same time, like, you don't put someone like me in charge of a nuclear power plant. That's just a disastrous idea. That's just not a good idea, right? And I would never take that job because I can't do it. So when I see these things about, hey, we've got to do this ESG move or this left-wing thing, or hey, we need to get money in the hands over here, yeah, if it's a good business idea, or definitely make sure people get to interview or whatever, or yeah, definitely the recruitment process is broken, and how do we make that better, and how do we make sure people aren't screened out? Perfect example, man. I got to be careful. It doesn't like me talking too much about. But my wife is trying to get do stuff in the healthcare field over here. She's got some hopefully good leads now. But she's a physician from Israel, and she was phenomenal. She was a superstar over there. And because of different things, I don't want to get into it. I'll boil it down. This burden. That'll be a different discussion. This discussion here, I'm pretty sure she gets screened out of residencies, medical residencies openings, which is crazy because she is a superstar, and I know she would do unbelievable because I've seen stuff. I mean, she went to school. We both went to school at Johns Hopkins. I've seen the letters of recommendations from Johns Hopkins, like big wigs and people in medical stuff. I mean, she is a superstar, but she gets screened out. So yeah, we have to fix things like that, right? We have to fix situations where people are not getting an opportunity. Again, I do believe that a recruitment thing is broken. I do think that we have things that we have to constantly work and evolve as a society. We have to make sure everybody has that opportunity, the mentorship, the training, all that type of stuff. At the same time, things have to make sense, and there has to be some reality, and that they're there. You can't just again, I'll just use me as an example. You would not want to hire me for an NBA team. That's craziness. Unless you just want to have me as a mascot or your media. Again, as a player, there's a lot of things I'm sure I could do to help an NBA team, in the front office or who knows whatever. But, marketing, on air, whatever. But you would not want to hire me as a player. especially where I'm at in my life right now. Like, forget it. Like, it's like, no way. That doesn't make any sense. So okay, let's get back to this. How it all relates. I like to make specific examples to bring it home. Point being is this. Look, we need more people working as efficiently as possible. That's how the economy works. We are not in a situation today in 2023 where everybody gets to sit at home and everybody's going to be a billionaire and nobody has to work and we all get to have any job that we want and without any training or education or whatever, and it's all going to work out. It's all good. That's not going to work. At the same time, like, there's been policies out there, and I don't want to dive into that, where it's like, okay, well, if you're not doing, like, we're gonna sit our workforce home, we're gonna shut things down. Whatever. That's not good. We're not gonna have oil and gas over here. We're gonna shut down this pipeline. I don't care where you're at, and whatever your politics are. I don't care whatever the where you're at with all that type of stuff. It's just the bottom line is that everything takes energy. And I think there's a stat, something like 70-80% of the energy created in the world is from fossil fuels. That's where we are today. So if you don't want, if you don't want ridiculous, insane, sky-high inflation, if you want everyone around the world that isn't all plugged into an electric grid, I mean, not everyone has access to the hottest new Tesla Plaid or Rivian or anything like that. Like, they don't have those options. Then we have to say, okay, what can we do right now to balance all this out and to make it all work, right? And what's fair to everybody? So these are very complex things. I'm not trying to say that I have all the answers. I may be a super genius or everything, but I am not. As I said, I know what I know. I know the sectors that I know, and I know enough to know there's tons more that I don't know, right? But I'm giving you some things to think about, because we're dealing with the situation right here, in my opinion, where everything's going to get very, very tough. And I think people are still kind of in that phase where, and I saw another stat, and I wish I could pull this out. I wish I could pull this, where basically people had saved up a lot of money with the pandemic. And now that savings rate is coming down. And it's about to get pretty tough, I'm afraid, for a lot of people. And I think the pain is just beginning. But what's so weird about this, I don't know, it's like, how do I say this? 2024 is not that far away politically, right? I know how the political, that's why you're seeing people announce now. We just had Governor Haley announce that she's in the race now. So now she's running. And, if the things are going to get super bad, things were kind of bad and the Democrats sort of did okay, but the Republicans also won. It was kind of a weird election last time, and we talked about that. And I was right in a lot of my calls, wrong in some of my calls. But I think part of it is I didn't go that next step. But I think a lot of people, I sort of, I knew it and I didn't, I don't know. There's a lot of different things. I don't want to that's a whole different discussion. I was more right than, I was very, very much, I was right. I'm right on so many things politically, but no one's right on 100% of things. But a part of that is you've had this movement, right? This shifting where a lot of people that were maybe conservative left California, left New York, left New Jersey and that was accelerated with the pandemic stuff and en masse. And then so the blue areas got bluer, the red areas got a little redder. Purple states like Florida shifted red with Governor DeSantis. There's a lot more to happen there. But what I'm laying out is you're talking about an environment now where AI is on the horizon. Robotics are also here. Quiet quitting is happening. There's a push to return to office. Globalism is happening. People are looking at, a lot of different things there. A lot of companies are saying, hey, we need to downsize. There was this other thing too. Tech companies, you say, well, it's being tech. Guess what? Tech companies, they are laying off people. I keep seeing the reports. If I go up here to LinkedIn, I'm sure I'll see something on the right side here. There we go. Yeah, LinkedIn News 5 hours ago. Latest layoffs, DocuSign, KPMG, more. There you go, right there. It's just, and you're seeing so many different things here. YouTube CEO is resigning. That's interesting. We'll dive into that. later. I mean, I'll read that story later. I'm not going to talk about it in this show. I don't know. I have so much crammed in this show, and I don't want to be up all night. I have a lot of things to do. So it used to be like, oh, we'll just do tech. That was Miami Tech. Yeah, we're just going to do tech. It's all going to be good. Well, no. What happens when tech goes? Like I said, when you have a situation, perfect example of the efficiency, I talked about it before, and that's just kind of a special case. But when Elon Musk, can lay off almost 3/4 of the workforce at Twitter, and you have engagement, still at pretty high levels, if not up. Well, what does that tell you? So I think you're seeing paradowns. I saw like 8%, 5%, 6%, 10% of a lot of these tech companies from Google, Meta, others, and I'm not alleging anything, I'd say do the research out there, are laying people off. That's a big deal. With rising debt, with lower savings rates, with inflation up. I mean, what's happening? If you're not preparing yourself now in automotive, that's another thing. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But before I do, I want to keep on the tech scene here. There's another article right here about, it's kind of an interesting thing. They called it, okay, we'll deal with that. The rise, quote, this was February 16th, today, Ryan Brown, CNBC, quote, rise of the, quote unquote, zombie VCs haunt tech investors as plunging valuations hammer the industry, unquote. Wow. And basically what they're saying is that basically you had so many different new VCs, and I can't tell you, and again, I saw so many different things. And again, this reminds me of the whole Miami tech scene and others like, hey, first time VC, raised my first fund, and let me tell you about our culture, and let me tell you about our left wing cause and this left wing cause, and just so many. And listen, on the one hand, like, I was a venture capitalist, and I know that industry really, really well. I was in Silicon Valley. I knew Sand Hill Road. I worked with, knew a lot of those people. And yeah, it's like, there needs to be a democratization, if you will, an opening of venture capital. So I'm all for that. I'm the biggest champion of that. But I think people get it very much twisted, because a lot of that is, hey, I have big money, I know somebody, or I have, I went to Stanford or Berkeley or Harvard for my MBA, the kind of deal, or I was a big time investment. Like there's just certain paths, and you have to know certain ways to that kind of thing. It's just like I highly doubt Goldman Sachs is recruiting at the number 100 MBA school. You see what I'm saying? Like, they're probably going to go to, I don't know what it is, I'm just making something up here, top 10, top 7, top 5, M7, whatever it is, M7, maybe M7 plus 3, but I don't think you're going to see Goldman Sachs on campus at number 50, right? So I think it's that kind of thing, and so but venture capital, but that's also, so you can work at that from both ways. And I don't want to get into a long discussion on any of this stuff, and I want to get hyper-partisan and everything like that. But I would say this. You can say that, first of all, a lot of the top schools are super liberal too now. Let's be straight about that. But you could say that, like, oh, well, how the schools pick or who gets into schools. Okay, we can keep going down that line. But on average, listen, I would take, a bunch of Stanford MBAs or a bunch of Berkeley MBAs or a bunch of, Chicago MBAs over people graduating from community college to start a venture fund. Does that make sense? Or to work at a venture fund, or entrepreneurs that have got successful exits, or you know what I mean? Like, I'd want to be in a fund with Reid Hoffman. I'd want to be in a fund with Peter Thiel. I'd want to be in a fund with Elon Musk. See what I'm saying? Like, there's just, at some point there's something to it, right? And so you had a lot of people that were raising money where maybe they had a different scene or a different reason, different cause. But again, a lot of this was, hey, I'm going to do this. Whatever. This fund's going to focus on climate or anything, just insert whatever name you want there. It doesn't matter. But it was almost exclusively left-wing causes. Some very, very left-wing, potentially. But let's just, I don't want to, let me revise it extend. Now I'm going to revise it extend. Let's just say left-wing causes. I saw very few right-wing causes. It's not a left-right thing, but it is to say, look at the Twitter files. If tech and VC, look at who donated to campaigns. Bay Area, I mean, hello, Seattle. I mean, if you're already dealing with an industry that's left-wing, and you're trying to go even saying, hey, guess what? They're not seeing these deals because of whatever potential hypothetical bias they might have. We're going to go, so we need to go even farther left, or we need to do something different, whatever. And there may be I think there's definitely cases for, nobody sees every deal. I've talked about this before in my Miami Tech stuff and other things like that. So there's always a case to be made. Okay. There's always a case to be made for someone that's skilled to find deals or to create deals, venture studio or something like that, and to do the work to make something happen. But that's a different argument. That always exists. But you have to have the talent, hard work. That's a different argument to make than, oh, hey, everything's unfair, and even though this industry's demonstrably left wing, they're really still unfair, and they're not seeing all this stuff, and I'm a first time VC, and it's gonna be amazing. Well, aren't you just like these other 20 funds that I just saw that just started the last year or two? Oh yeah, no, but I'm different. Okay, well, maybe, I hope. It's the same thing. An efficient market is an efficient market. If a market is too insular, and it's not here, we're only going to focus on this 5%. We're not going to deal with this 90%. Someone's going to come and deal with this 90%. I use the example of Fox News, right? And I remember I was working at CNN. And CNN at the time, and what have I said before? A 50% strategy is not a 100% strategy, right? You need a 100% strategy, okay? Or as close as you can get to one of that. So it's like, okay, so you had CNN, PBS NewsHour, you had ABC, NBC, the different things. And CNBC was much more, I don't know that there was an MSNBC at that time. I can't remember. But anyway, bottom line was, if you could say like everything else was pretty much left wing or center or whatever like that, and then you had Fox, which was it entered into a space that without really any competition for that audience, that 50%, if you will, and it did really well because of that, because they went where that network went where others weren't, if you will, on the spectrum in terms of programming, broadcasting, and stuff like that. Once they did that, they showed that, guess what? Boom, 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 lots of competition, right? Lots of stuff in that space. You could say to some extent like that happened with radio versus a lot more right-wing conservative radio back in the day, talk radio versus the TV. So there's all kinds of different arguments. But the point is once that gap in the market is identified, there's going to be a lot of competition coming there. If something works, if something's being missed, if deals are being missed, if there's an arbitrage, the market will fill, barring some kind of barrier to that doesn't allow, that market will be filled. Once people understand that this is a lane to go in, you're going to be in this. What I'm saying is you may have a little bit of a head start if you found that first, but you're going to inevitably end up in the same position, which means competition, which means you have to be skilled and good. So first time anything is kind of, we'll see, to be TBD, to be determined. You better have a great mousetrap. You better have great skill set. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. I mean, it's again, to use a sports analogy, and I'm going to mess this up tremendously. If I start my own sports league and I'm like saying, hey, okay, I'm going to do my own version of professional basketball, or now they have the USFL, right? If I want the champion of the USFL to play the Super Bowl champion, if we're going to have a league versus league championship, if you will, well, guess what? My team, my championship team better be able to play in the NFL if they're going to have a chance to win, barring incredible luck, right? So you're either going to bank on being super lucky, or you have to come back to, I'm going to actually be good and talented and I'm going to deliver. There's no escape from that. So yes, it's no shock to me that all of a sudden now, hey, guess what? Things are getting a little tough and here's the quote from CNBC, quote, unable to make impressive return for their institutional backers, such firms will instead focus on managing their existing portfolios before eventually winding down. And basically what it's saying here is, I didn't go through all of it, but basically like, look, these firms aren't going to be deploying money. What have I said? The hardest thing is to raise your first fund. The second hardest thing is to make the fund perform, because if you don't perform, you'll be one and done. And that's basically what this thing is saying. And that now things are getting tough. And who can get value? Who can add value? It's not just about raising money. It used to be that VCs, venture capitalists, were almost like partners. They would get in there and they'd roll their sleeves up. They had contacts. They'd help you with business model. They would do board meetings. They'd do all kinds of stuff. If you're not doing that, then it's like, being a great venture capitalist isn't just having a thesis. Well, I'm going to go after these deals. Nobody's looking at these deals. I mean, that's cool. I mean, you want to find the best deals. You want to get in at the best fair valuation. It has to be fair for both sides for it to be sustainable long term, in my opinion. Again, not giving any financial advice. And third thing is you have to add value. No matter what you do, you need to add value constantly. That's it. I mean, it's like it always simple. It can get complex, but it gets simple. I know I'm going a long time on this, but this is super important points right here, and people just miss it. So yes, no surprise. It's great. Oh, I'm a VC. I raise all this money. Okay, cool. I hope everyone's successful, but we're gonna see a lot of. I'm afraid we're gonna see a lot of has-been VCs very quickly. And look at this. A quote. Quote. That number could be as high as 50% of VCs in the next few years who are just not going to be able to raise their next fund. Unquote. That's insane. I think that's of all VCs. So you think of the VCs out there that are already successful, existing funds. You think of that. If half of all VCs can't raise another fund, oh my goodness, that's craziness. There's no free lunch. There's no free money. Let me talk about some of these other things real quick before I wind it down. It's getting a little late here. There's so much. I told you, there's so much to talk about. There really is. A new era of auto repair. How electric, let's talk about auto a little bit, will be fixed in the future and what it means for consumer. Yahoo Finance, Thomas Ruddy, February 16th, right? And it's basically talking about it's a whole different thing in the service drive right now, and what's gonna change, right? And the battery pack, that's another thing. I mean, are we repairing them? Are we replacing them? It's just crazy, what's gonna happen. So it talks here about how there's going to be a big lane for extending the life of the batteries and maybe repair it. That I agree with that. That's a big deal, right? There's no question. So I think there's going to be some different things here, but I think that in the short term, I wouldn't be surprised to see a big hit in the service profitability and revenues on the dealership side, and that's a big deal. I mean, I think you're going to see tremendous pain. I mean, I don't know. I would say this is where it gets hard to make a call, right? Of what's the degree of pain that we're going to see here. Significant challenges to even, consolidation or serious pain in the automotive space over the next 1 to 5 years. I think you're seeing massive changes right here. And you also see that right here that now on the flip side, what did I tell you? What did I tell you about Tesla and how dominant they are in EVs? Now you've got CNBC, Phil LeBeau, a big time auto reporter, February 16th. Quote, EVs like Tesla Model 3 and Toyota hybrids dominate Consumer Reports' top auto picks. That's a big deal, dude. Tesla is no joke. It's a huge deal. So what we've got right here is in the under, let's say, in the under $35,000 and under market, you've got a lot of Toyota stuff there. You got some Subaru, Ford. In the 45 to 55,000, you've got Tesla Model 3 right there, Lexus NX 350 hybrid. So everything's changing. Everything's changing out there. Right there, Tesla sells, quote, 2 out of 3 EVs in the U.S. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, it's just a big deal. Things are changing so fast right now in automotive space. It's not even funny. And I don't think people understand. I see these things online all the time, like, oh, we need to do this, go back to the old days. That's never going to happen. It's done. It's gone. That doesn't mean that you don't need, you need all, you need great salespeople, you need great management, you need, training, you need, obviously you need lots of marketing, you need to grab market share. There's all kinds of different things that are in the mix. But I think that's not understanding what's really happening right now, what's going to happen right now. But anyway, there's so much to talk about. And I hope I touched on some of this right here. And it just comes back to the same things. You have to understand your strategic environment. You have to understand what's going on in the industry. You have to do the due diligence. You have to understand how you can add value. Yes, you have to work hard, but you also have to find that balance that's sustainable for you, where you can enjoy life, enjoy your family, and go where you're interested in, and go where you can add the most value. But also understand that, like, some of these things, they're just gone. You can't set up 20,000 dealerships for horses and buggies anymore across the U.S. and expect to make, tens of millions of dollars. It's just not going to happen. Or, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying never say never, but I mean, I don't see how that's going to, I think that's a tough one. I think that's a tough one. Similarly, when the airplane when the airplane came along, that changed the game for rail, right? And definitely changed the game for ships, for international travel, right? So things change. The only thing constant is change. How are you adapting to that change? You don't adapt to the change by looking backwards. Now you can say, okay, here's some best practices. Here's some things that are tried and true. This is what I think ports over. But you need to understand how it's shifted. And I just think that there's such a lack of stuff, but also you have to have a good and fair partnership with your business partner, with your employees and stuff, and what's in it for them. Capitalism's not feudalism, right? And if there's this idea that we're going to get leverage on the employees and I saw this thing about, I think it was in one of the investment banks was talking about comp and cutting comp and stuff, and it's like, hey, listen, top talent has options. Top talent can move around. I don't know any business that can do really well without great talent. I have yet to see that, unless it's a truly passive business, But any business that needs people needs great talent. It just does. And I've seen almost every business can be improved by better talent and better management and stuff like that. So this idea that you're going to like punk out and not pay up and not step up on talent is crazy. I mean, I just had this conversation tonight, and I'll have more to talk about tomorrow and or in the morning here if I'm going into a tough storm, if I'm going into a battle, I want a special forces team. I want the best of the best. That's not where I start looking to trim top talent. That makes no sense, dude. That makes no sense. If I'm deep behind enemy lines, if it's fourth and long, I'm not putting in the third string. Okay. And how many businesses are going to be in that fourth and long situation? Tons of them. So what are you going to do differently? How do you win into this environment? I look forward to your comments. I want to hear what you're going to do. Again, I don't have all the answers, but I know how to ask the right questions. And I'm not against anybody. I'm for everybody. But when I challenge people, when I challenge you, I'm challenging you. I challenge myself to be realistic, to be honest with yourself, to understand the playing dynamics and understand where the value is and understand what's fair. That's the biggest thing. I think I'm an amazing negotiator. And the thing is I know, one of my former professors, Professor Stacy Lee of the Hopkins School, she does a great job. And, we have different politics, which is totally fine in my opinion. Not like anything. Professor Lee, you can speak for yourself. But, we both have, I'd like to believe that we both have a lot of respect for each other, and she's very smart. But anyway, the point of it is that she's got all kinds of, how do I say this? Now I kind of got myself in a little bit of a trap. But, she's got a lot of courses, she does different things. I think she did something with Washington Post on negotiation, whatever. It's fantastic. And I'm sure it's awesome. And she was a great professional and everything like that. But for me, I've been a great negotiator. But to me, negotiation is just getting to what's fair. Now, there's a lot more to that, right? Being creative, finding the win-win, and trying to putting together. I'm gonna get the name wrong. Understand your BATNA and all these things, and putting together multiple simultaneous equivalent offers, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it really to me is no more complicated than getting to what's fair. Doing the hard work and diligence to understanding what's fair, getting to what's fair and sustainable for both sides, communicating that, figuring out, being creative to figure out what's really important to you, what's really important to the other side. Similar thing on the employment side. I'm so tired of hearing about quiet. I mean, it's all important, and we'll talk about it. Quiet quitting, quiet hiring, this and that. Who's got leverage? Listen, you can't. This is what drives me crazy about the automotive world. Not every dealership's the same. Not every market's the same. Not every brand's the same. Not every maybe some dealerships are going to do great with let's get up at 5 a.m. and let's hit the gym, let's work out, let's go crazy, let's flood the floor, hey, if half the people quit, doesn't matter who really wants it, who's going to live here. And maybe other dealerships it's a totally different, or other markets a totally different approach. Now, some approaches I think are better than others. Some I think we can look at some best practices across the industry. But people feel they just want a button to push. What's the process that's going to make me tons of money where I don't need anyone, where I can hire anyone and they can do this? Or what's the approach, or whatever. There's no button. Like there's approaches, there's things that are smart. You still have to do the hard work. You still have to customize things. No different when I train, elite athletes and professional athletes and stuff like that. It was like, look, and again, not giving anyone advice. Here's what I can take off the shelf of what I kind of put together with some other elite people, world class, whatever, the best of the best that I thought, the research I did, that's gonna, if you do 90%, this is not quite right, and this is not accurate, but this can get you 70 to 90% of the way if you just do this most of it. But if you really want that, but guess what? If you're national, state, national, world class, the difference is this much. So in order to really get where you want to go at those top levels, you're going to need to customize. You're going to need to adjust. You're going to need to shift, move, do some different things, be creative, right? And people get so lost in it. But anyway, where I'm going with this is the same spot, which is to say that you can't treat all employees the same. Everyone's got to work 6 days a week. You get 4 days off a month or 6 days off a month, whatever. That's not going to work for everybody. And it shouldn't work for everybody. If you impose that, you are limiting your access to talent. Doesn't make sense. If I only recruit from one school, I'm limiting my access to talent. Doesn't make sense. If I say nobody needs a degree, or we won't even take anyone with a degree here, I'm limiting my access to talent. It doesn't make any sense. Is everybody doing the same job? Should everybody do the same job? Does everybody do the same job the same way? It doesn't there's such a lack of understanding. It's crazy, And again, I don't have it all figured out, or I'd be retired right now, right? But I've done some really, really great things, and I'm still working on it. But again, I like to say, I'm nobody. I just know a lot of things. I know a lot of people. I know how to ask the right questions. But we are not looking at this the right way. That's what I want to leave you with. Not that I'm like, hey, listen to everything I'm saying. Think about it for yourself. Do some reflection. Do some introspection right now, because whatever plan you think you have for 2023, you may need to re-examine that. Whatever plan you think you have for your business, whatever approach that you have, I'd really think about that, particularly automotive. Automotive, listen, anything can happen in automotive at this point. I mean, I could see dealers, metaphorically speaking, I could see things just getting bulldozed. Metaphorically speaking. I mean, it could get ridiculously bad. But I also think that there's going to be some big winners in there. There's going to be some huge opportunities. There's going to be some people grabbing market share. And those are the people that are going to be doing it smarter. Not harder, smarter. Yeah, you're going to have to work hard. Of course, everybody has to work hard to be successful. But working smarter, having a better mousetrap. And I just think that people like control so much and look for, it's like you can't be afraid to step up and pay people. You can't be afraid to be flexible with people, to find ways to win, find ways to keep people happy. You want to stop the turnover? You want to stop the revolving door? Work with people, respect people, be cool, pay them up, empower them, train them in what they want to be trained in, not what you want them to be trained in. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, we lose track of where it's at. You know what I mean? It may have taken 5, 10, 15 years to become a leader. Okay, I've got my team, I've got my army. Cool. Guess what? When you entered the army, if you will, this is metaphorically speaking, you got a different army now. You're in a different environment. You're in a totally different, you're doing a different thing. It's all changed, dude. Who's moved my cheese? The cheese is moved, dude. It's over. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to win? That's the question. I challenge you in that. And I challenge myself in that every day. So I look forward to continuing the conversation. I hope this helped in some ways. I hope it empowered you in some ways. I hope it got you to think in some ways. Again, I don't claim to have all the answers, but I hope that I'm helping you ask some questions and make improvements in your life. And I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. My name is John D. Villar.